Good morning, everybody. It is day 13 with spiritual healthcare. Hard to believe we've almost been doing this for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, that's crazy. This has just been so much fun. I hope everybody is having a really good morning. It's nice and sunny here. I don't know what it's doing where you are. It's a little cold though. We've suddenly had a drop in temperature here in Alberta, and we've been getting quite a bit of extra snow, but that's normal for the end of winter, I guess, the induction to spring here in Alberta. So today is going to be really fun because what I want to do with everybody this afternoon is talk a little bit about the physical field of paranormal research. So some interesting things have come up over the last little while. There was a couple in the UK, I believe, who have just been caught with going out and sort of ghost hunting during, of course, the shutdown and the quarantine, and it's made a lot of people upset and whatnot. And there's a sort of controversy that's come up now, is that, if you are self-isolating and keeping your distance and all this kind of thing, is it still okay for people to be going to all of these different places sort of ghost hunting, hobbyist ghost hunting, and this kind of thing. So that's actually just come up over the last little bit, is how is investigations and things like that going to look going forward from the COVID-19 epidemic. And as I say, this new bit of information, this new article that's come out about these two ghost hunters that are kind of, I guess they do a YouTube channel or something like that, and they're going around and still going into buildings and stuff like that despite the quarantine. So they've been getting a lot of grief for this, obviously, because everybody's being told, stay home, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be going all these places. So I thought it would be a really good thing, and based off of as well some of the questions that I've been getting over the last little while, to talk about the field work with paranormal research and the field work and what we do, right? How teams are built, what equipment is used, what does that mean to do this research properly. And I think it's something that's a really good thing to start talking about. So today I wanted to go through, how we make the decision to be a parapsychologist or paranormal research, or wherever it is for you, ESP research, and the challenges that are faced that are not usually considered by people. How do we do that as researchers and investigators? Hello, everybody logging on. So I thought we could kind of go through that today, and there's been some great questions that have come in about it already. So the one thing I wanted to really start with is that when people start to go into paranormal research, oftentimes it's because, they've seen the TV shows and they think that, sort of going into these places and, sitting up at midnight and running around and screaming and yelling and whatever, expecting to be scared is parapsychology and research. Good morning, Des. And that's just simply not true. So we kind of have to dispel the myth of the ghost hunter mythos that has been projected by a lot of these TV shows, because it's not how paranormal research is done at all. A lot of those shows, they're strictly entertainment, and that needs to be something that I think is understood across the board, that's not what it looks like. So when we start to look at actual research, much of it, of course, is done in the labs. We've got institutions like PAIR at Princeton. Yale, of course, has got studies going. Northampton has studies going. University of Edinburgh, all sorts of amazing universities that have got these research programs going. So the people that want to do this, that are going out in the field, and going to different abandoned buildings and stuff like that with cameras. Sometimes it can be a fun thrill, but it's not necessarily something that's ever going to put you on the map in terms of moving the field forwards. However, if you started out somewhat like me, where myself and my business partner Stephanie were, we wanted to get some hands-on experience with this stuff. We wanted to understand it. The first thing that we did was to start and figure out who exactly, number one, who our clients were going to be, and understanding their perspective. Because what I found is that a lot of people that want to get into this field really do think that it's going to be about going in to do an investigation for a night or 2 nights, and with the client needing help, for instance, and they're going to get their evidence and then they're going to leave, and that's going to be it. But one of the things that I want everybody to consider is, especially in the world of paranormal research, when you've got people that are reaching out to you, you have to understand where some of these people are coming from. Okay, so some of these people have, for example, lost their homes already. They've moved 10 times, right? They're trying to move around, get away from the phenomenon. They might be house poor at this point. They highly likely have lost somebody, because oftentimes we get calls from people that are going through grief. So they're struggling. And the other one that we want to consider is mental health issues. Okay, so sometimes you'll get that call from somebody who has a genuine mental health issue. They don't have something paranormal going on in their experience, but it could be something like a drug interaction, a bad drug interaction. It could be, let's say, psychological problems, or environmental factors as well. So there's a whole bunch of things that need to be ruled out before we turn around and start labeling things with a paranormal label or as paranormal phenomena. So that's something we have to really consider. So oftentimes when I get people that are coming to me and saying, I really want to do this, they haven't really considered what that's going to look like. So say, for example, people get all their buddies together and they're like, I want to go do this, and I'm going to form some sort of a team, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to say I can help people. Being able to evaluate whether or not you can do that is something that is really needed. You really need to consider. And it was something that Stephanie and I saw really quickly early on, was the fact that, wait a minute, not all these people aren't stable. Most people that ask for the help aren't stable, because that's why they're asking for help, right? So establishing a group that you can lean on, that you can rely on, because you're not going to know everything. I sure as hell don't know everything about, things like electronics or psychology or nursing or anything like that. And you need the people around you that can support you in getting those community resources when you run into a case that's not necessarily something that you're expecting. So we want to pay attention to stuff like that, because when people get into this, they don't necessarily take into account what it is we do as researchers and what they're going to run into. It's not about going into a house, getting scared, and leaving. There is so much more to that. So when choosing a team, when we start to choose teams and start to choose the people, sort of our advisory board, right? We want to make sure, as I say, we've got the commitment and our own commitment as to what this is going to, what this is going to look like going forward. How committed are we to the client, for example? This might not be a 1-night, 2-night situation. The odds are you want to be able to stay on board with these people until, okay? You want to be able to work to criteria so that you're getting the problem resolved, and that might not be for a number of weeks. So we have to keep that in mind also. What's the amount of time you want to invest in doing this? When it comes to team stuff, when it comes to pulling in people that you want surrounding you, you want to make sure that you're not pulling on your buddies necessarily. They might be friends, but you want to make sure that you've got a very broad knowledge base. And what I mean by broad is things like electricians, psychologists, all of that kind of thing. I've count the amount of time I've run into cases where I've needed to check with somebody about, someone's medications, because I have no idea. So that's something that's really important to be able to say, wait a minute, I don't know this. I don't know if this is over my pay grade. You need to be able to talk to somebody about it. So having a responsible environment and being able to know when to say, no, I can't do this is something that's super important. So these are some of the challenges faced that are not usually considered, okay, by researchers when we're building a team up, and we're building a group of people that can actually serve. And that intention going in, that staying in service, is really important as well. Myself, and I know hundreds and hundreds of other researchers, they don't charge for their help. Okay, so you know, doing research and making money from things like workshops and tours and stuff like that is great. But you know, going out and making sure that your intention is to be of service takes the ego out of a lot of what goes on, because there's a lot of griping, there's a lot of there can be a lot of naysaying and you know, people wanting fame and money and this, that, and the other thing. And as soon as you're there, that's it, you're done. You got to quit, because at that point the intention of service is gone, and you're going to find, interestingly, that these energetic doors, things that were working out for you, start to close, which gets really intriguing as well. I've had that happen personally myself a number of times, where, you know, it was like I couldn't get anything to work. Nothing was working out, nothing was following through. And then once I removed either certain people out of the equation, or just, you know, certain mental states out of the equation, whether it be mine or others, someone else's, all of a sudden those doors start to open again. So that's super important. So the intention you're going in with is absolutely key. Now, Shadow had a fantastic question, again, because her questions are always so good, and I want to grab onto this as we go forward. So she says, where is it? Okay, is there a protocol? Shouldn't paranormal professionals be flossing out investigations as a precautionary measure as well, since we are still exploring and experimenting with energies and forces we are yet to truly understand and comprehend? I think this is a fantastic question. Is there a protocol? What do you do when we're dealing with all of this stuff? What is there? Well, there is a protocol, actually. Believe it or not. And it's not often talked about, because nobody wants to, you know, everybody, again, is, you know, stuck with a lot of the media stuff. But the Society of Psychical Research actually does have a protocol book for investigations, and how to conduct these things properly. So it's absolutely true. And it's easy. It's available to everybody. I'll post a link to it later on the Entity Seeker Facebook page. But there is a protocol, and there is a way to go about this where you're doing it professionally, where you've got things in place in case stuff goes wrong and whatnot. So, you know, I was asked a little while ago, what is my take on the idea of going out and doing you know, investigations right now into remote buildings and things like that. And I highly recommend, please don't do it. You know, we're really trying to stay inside right now, and the sooner we all stay in, the sooner all of this ends. Okay, so really don't do it. I mean, it's easy to think that we're social distancing, I think, because, you know, we're going into a place that's, you know, left abandoned or something like that, but really it's not a good idea. And it brings up a point in case about people that venture into these abandoned places anyway. It's extremely dangerous. Number one, you have to have permission from the property owner. And number three, I think is so important, is to understand that a lot of these places are not structurally sound. They are shut down for a reason. We've got a abandoned hospital here in Edmonton, and it's become such a hot spot for people to kind of break into, because it's been sitting dormant for about 20 years. Its history is unbelievable. It has to do with a tuberculosis outbreak back in the 1950s that got right out of control, speaking of pandemics and things like that. And they were bringing, what happened with this hospital is they were bringing people from up north down to Edmonton to be treated, except when they were at the hospital, they were being treated extremely poorly. So these were all the native communities that were basically being brought down and told they've got TB, and they would be in this hospital for years. But there was reports and allegations of abuse and multiple other things. So the hospital has kind of become a hotspot because people want to get in there and investigate it. But at this, you know, we've interviewed firefighters and emergency personnel and things like that have pulled bodies out of this hospital. You know, people have fallen through floors and all sorts of things. So a lot of these places, they're not sound, and when we go in without, you know, proper permits or proper team or anything like that, we end up in massive amounts of danger, and you could totally lose your life. So don't do it. So when we talk about building a team of resources when it comes to paranormal research, it doesn't mean to just rely on the resources around you that you might have currently now. It does mean reaching out to the community. There are so many incredible resources out there for investigators, for clients that need help. And one of them is called the Forever Family Foundation. Okay, so oftentimes in research, we do end up dealing with people that are grieving. We end up dealing with people who, have lost a loved one and are in that negative emotional place for really good reason. And we have to be able to pass them the resources to nurture them through that. Because again, our job as investigators is not to fix them. Our job is to be the compass to get them to a better feeling place so they can start healing and they can start attracting from the place that they need to be, which is, positive and happy and joyful and things like that. So our job is not to be the solution. We can't go in there and start fixing stuff, okay? Because we can't. We can't create in their reality. But we can be their compass and get them to the right things. So the Forever Family Foundation was founded by one of my favorite investigators, Lloyd Auerbach, and it is a fantastic resource for people who are looking for a connection with a medium or a connection with dealing with grief in a more spiritual / paranormal way. You're not going to go there and be told, you're crazy, your loved one is just gone. These people can help through those different aspects of grief in a new way. So the one thing that they have available to do, which I will pass on to you guys as well, because their website is full of amazing stuff, is the Signs of Life radio show. So they have a great radio show, and I think one of them is on tonight, if you guys want to check it out. And the Signs of Life radio they talk about all sorts of really cool stuff. And I think being able to plug into this type of a community is so important, because we end up getting new information. We connect with people that have been in the field for ages and who are right on board with the understanding of let's get feeling better so that we can attract a better circle of life experiences and paranormal activity. So I think it's a really great thing to do. So go check out Forever Family Foundation and pass it on, because it's really important. So I want to be able to give you guys a reading that kind of applies to this today. Okay. And I'm going to pull it out from Birth Through Death, The Ethics of the 20th Plane, which is my great-great-grandfather's book, one of two of his books. And he ended up, of course, Louis Benjamin, who he was working with, ends up channeling this information, right? So he's being the receiver and receiving this information and then letting it sit. So my great-great-grandfather, A.D. Watson, was the one who was writing this all down. So I'm going to read you guys a little bit of what they said, and because I think this is super cool and I have to share this with you. So check this out. The human mind is made up of the conscious and subconscious. The memory which concerns the habit of your life resides in the conscious mind of the physical, the human brain. At death, it entirely vanishes. The subconscious has an angle of its own. Thoughts that have to do entirely with the building of your character, the development of your soul, particularly with love experience, and the love experience of a mother when she looks into the eyes of her newborn baby, and the last words a son hears from his expiring mother, or when a comrade dies upon the battlefield, attended by one who in life was an entire stranger, but who now is ministering to him. When this stranger, looking into the eyes of the dying soldier, murmurs, "I will write your people and tell them you died a hero." These things enter into the subconscious and remain there forever. Soul experience remains with you when you reach this world of light and love. The subconscious mind is the one that enters the other life and finds its home in the other body. Death is the scale in which you weigh that knowledge or memory which will be of value to you. You will dispense with that which is, in reality, nothing more than debris. A great deal of earth plane memory is inferior. It is necessary while on that plane, but is absolutely not necessary in this life. It is dissipated in the elements of this life and ceases to be. Love that. Love that. A little bit of insight from non-physical. I love that. And it leads me into the process that I want to give you guys also. So I have to give you guys a process because it's always, we want to keep our vibrations as high as we can. So the one I want to give you today is one that I use so often. I use it every day. Not just in terms of paranormal research and things like that, but it's finding the feeling place of the thing and the headspace that you want to be in. So the concept behind this is the fact that usually people like to rely on external circumstances, right? We like to, okay, if this would just change, then we can feel better. If I had this, then I know I would feel like this. And it's actually a little bit on the backward side. So what I want you guys to start thinking about is, what if you could get to the feeling place of what you want and how you want to feel before you start seeing the actual manifestation in your space? Because ultimately, why do we want the thing to begin with? It's to feel a certain way. Well, sometimes what we can do is actually feel that way before we end up seeing the physical entrance of that experience into our environment. And this is something I do with clients all the time, because clients will often, if this phenomenon would just go away, if I just didn't have to deal with this today, or I just didn't have to, be afraid that something was going to happen. Well, hold on a minute. Can you feel that way right now? How do you get to that place in your head where stuff is the way you want it? How would that feel? And I gave you guys some processes recently, such as, writing down sort of, a list of appreciation and that kind of thing. And of course, yesterday we did the creation box, where we're putting all of these different experiences in our box and letting it sort of churn. And this is it's very similar to that. But what I find is that when people are able to get into the headspace of what exactly it is they're looking for, well, guess what happens? Their environment starts to turn to match that. And oftentimes with hauntings, we see this so readily and so frequently, where people are putting their attention makes a difference. And as soon as people are feeding attention into that activity, guess what? Bam, they end up with more of it. Oftentimes, if people call us in to do an investigation or something like that, they'll turn around and they'll ask, or they'll experience kind of an incline in activity after we leave. So I'm always careful about which places I go to investigate, because ultimately, wherever you're flowing attention, guess what? You're going to get more of it. So finding the feeling place of what it is you want, it can be so much fun. It can be so much fun. I often use drawing and art to try that out. So I'll create like pictures and drawings and whatnot, and automatically it's like, bam, I've got, within a short amount of time, I find that feeling place, and then I start to see it happen in my environment. So it's pretty cool. So I wanted to give you guys something to do as well, something for you guys to go and play with, because some of you guys went and took the course in happiness at Yale. I'm so happy to see that a lot of you guys are doing that. I know a lot of you had a great time with the Wouldn't It Be Nice If process. I see a lot of you guys posting about, the courses you're taking and all that kind of stuff. I love this. This is awesome. So I'm going to give you guys another one to go do today. The national parks have decided that they are going to release, and I guess they did in the last couple of days here, a virtual tour of the Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico. So for those of you guys who have not heard of this is so neat. These are naturally made caverns caused by sulfuric acid. And there is 119 of these caves, like 119 of these caves. It's so cool. And you guys can go and tour around virtually, talking about like awesome investigations, tour around virtually in the Carlsbad Caverns. So I'm going to post a link to that on the Entity Seeker Facebook page, because it's so neat. It's just super cool. So yeah, check that out when you get a chance, because I think it's gonna be fun to do. I'm gonna play around with that today. It looks really awesome. So that being said, I want to be able to, thank you, Serena. It means so much to me, you guys, that you guys are getting something out of this, and that you are are enjoying, you know, coming together every morning and whatever. You have no idea. Like it's making me just as happy. Believe me, it's wonderful. And I feel so blessed and appreciative that I'm able to do this with you guys every day. Thank you, Facebook. So it's awesome. Thank you, Des. You're just, thank you. You guys are gonna make me cry. So I want to bring this together with our health affirmations, because it's so important with everything that we're doing right now, and everything we're going through right now. So I want everybody to take a deep breath. It is natural for my body to be well. Even if I don't know what to do in order to get better, my body does. I have trillions of cells with individual consciousness, and they know how to achieve individual balance. When this condition began, I didn't know what I know now. I don't need to understand the cause of this illness. I only have to get gently peaceful and eventually release this illness. It doesn't matter how it got started, because it is reversing its course right now. There's no hurry about any of this. My body knows what to do. Well-being is natural to me. My inner being is intricately aware of my physical body, and my cells are asking for what they need in order to thrive, and Source is answering those requests. I'm in very good hands. My only work is to relax and breathe, and I can do that easily. Everybody take a breath and exhale. Thank you again. Thank you, Serena, for saying that. I so appreciate that. So, and as I say, you guys are just as appreciated on this end. You know, I was actually writing my journal last night about the rampage of appreciation about being able to do this and interact with you guys and be able to know that you guys are getting something from this you know, from spiritual healthcare. And I want to make sure that we can keep doing this, you know, hopefully even after quarantine and stuff like that is all over. I know people are going to be super busy and like wanting to get the hell out of their house and stuff like that, but I want to work and bring a version of this once everybody's out of quarantine, to Crowdcast. As you guys know, I'm doing ritual exorcism in film and television on Crowdcast on Saturday night. But I'm looking right now at working into doing another show that's going to be very similar to spiritual healthcare. So we have this continuation of spiritual healthcare and what we're doing. So thank you guys so much. I hope you guys have an incredible day today. It's very beautiful outside, so hopefully it's warm enough for some of you guys to open your windows and get some fresh air. We will see you right back here tomorrow morning on spiritual healthcare. Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful afternoon, and again, love y'all. Talk to you soon.